All right, after a long wait, a lot of anticipation, after teasing a part two for the better part of a month, I'm here once again with the president of our league, my friend and my teammate, my Heat brother, Mr. Blake Boudreau. Blake, how have you been, and thanks for joining me.
Doing well, Tim. Been busy. Sorry it took so long, but I'm glad we're back doing this again.
Hey, you're better than Seth right now, because he and I just cannot connect, and that's a big market tease for the people that listen. We're gonna get Bam Bam in there as soon as we can. And speaking of that, so we have Bam Bam on the horizon, and I think I've got someone to fill in for me as I finally do an interview, and I finally get interviewed and get asked some questions. So that's to come in as we progress in season 2. But for now, we're gonna get to know Blake as a Bayou City Heat player, as a ball player, and because we got the presidential stuff out of the way last time, and I hope you had fun, because I sure did.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can't wait for someone to interview you so I can turn the table a little bit and ask you those hard-hitting questions as well. So looking forward to it.
All right, can't wait. I want to start out, first of all, with your history in the game. Basically, I know you've been playing for a long time. Will you explain that and how you got introduced to the sport, and we'll start there.
Yeah, this is going to be my 25th year. I've been playing since I was 9 years old. And it was actually my vision teacher at school knew about beat baseball and had some family members who were involved in the sport. So she actually brought pictures from the 1993 World Series to show me about beat baseball. And at the time, I could see a tiny bit. So I could see bits and pieces of the picture, but she described it to me, and I really had no clue about the sport at all, didn't have any idea of how it was played or anything of that nature. And to be completely honest with you, I wasn't interested at first because, I was very much into competitive sports. My brother was a baseball and football player. My dad was a football coach and basketball coach, and I didn't want anything that was just recreational and, rah-rah, everybody gets a snow cone type of thing. I wanted to compete, and I didn't at the time know that was what we were dealing with beat baseball. So at 9 years old, I just went out to check out a practice, and very soon after that, I was hooked.
Now, whose practice did you check out?
So at the time in Houston, this particular year, which was 1994-95, the teams were split into two. So Houston had the Houston Bombers and the Houston Express. And I went to the practice of the Houston Express, which was run by Doc Bradley, which is a former president of the NBBA, and a lot of our listeners who are have been associated with beat baseball for a while know Doc pretty well. He was a member of the Bayou City Heat for a very long time, one of the founding fathers of the team, and been around the league since its inception. So he was running the Houston Express, and I believe Michael Garrett was running the Houston Bombers at the time. And so I was an Express member for one tournament until the teams merged in 1995.
Wow, what a history lesson. And this ultimately became the Bayou City Heat, I'm assuming.
It did, and to be completely honest with you, it's such a blur after being that long. I don't know when we switched over to the Heat, but we were the Bombers for several years, I believe. And
that sounds right. Lee Rod in season 1 definitely gave me a brief history lesson on that. It's wild, man. Some of the most instrumental people involved in that, including yourself, are still involved today. So, what was
the members who are still affiliated with the Bayou City Heat, who were with the original Bombers, I believe, are Michael Garrett, Daryl Miner, Lee Rodriguez, and myself. And if I'm missing somebody, I apologize, but I believe those are the remaining members from those Bombers teams.
That's a lot, though. That shows longevity and commitment, man. That's we get a long lineage of dedication to our sport, and that's a testament to our program.
And I was truly blessed, Tim, to be involved with that particular team at that particular time, because to come in a league on a team that had Ed Doc Bradley and Michael Garrett at the head, two former presidents of our organization and truly inspiring individuals just in life, very independent, career-oriented, successful individuals. As a 9-year-old child, it gave me definitely some insight of what life could be like if I, did things the way I should, and it gave me some goals and things to shoot for.
Would you say guidance?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it just, and to be honest, those two individuals, Michael Garrett and Ed Doc Bradley, were the two individuals who approached me to run for the board of directors when that thought was not even in my head 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, it shows because you're still a young man now, so you were obviously still a young man then, and the fact that they saw that in you, that shows a lot about you and their trust in you. That's really cool. So I want to speak to what you said about not really digging it at first. I prejudged it when I was introduced to it, and I think I've told you this before. I thought it was just like go get off your butt and like feel good about yourself type of thing. Until I, thankfully I kept a bit of an open mind. I said, I was also like to get people off my case. So I was like, yeah, I'll go check it out. Fine. So I'm miserable at this point in my life because I just lost vision and don't know what's going to happen next. But I'll tell you what, the first time I swung and connected, I fell in love instantly. And I want to know what it was like for you being so young. I was in my early 20s. What was it like for you being such a young chap and being introduced to the sport?
Well, and I prejudged it as well. And I think the moment it hit me that this was the real deal, I was sitting on a large rock on the sideline of a Fort Worth tournament. Back in the day, we had a regional tournament in Fort Worth, Texas. And we were on the opposite end of a 22-0 beatdown, I believe, in the first inning by the Lone Star Roadrunners at the time. That's when I realized this was not what I expected, and it was something serious. And back in the day, the Austin Blackhawks and the Lone Star Roadrunners ran the show. And at that point, it opened my eyes, and it also opened the eyes of my dad, who was just a spectator during that first tournament until he saw what was happening to us in that first inning and decided to jump in as coach pretty soon after that. So it was something that was definitely it wasn't what I was expecting. It was very, very intense. I was 9 years old, and I was in a league with a bunch of grown men and women. And it was years and years and years until somebody younger than me came along at the time.
That's incredible. I just can't imagine that. I mean, what a like you said, it sounds like a blessing. And I mean, these grown men are have their own lives, personal lives, family lives, and stuff. But you're still at school. You're still at grade school. And like, what was it like? Like your peers, did they know what you were doing? And if so, were there questions? And what was that dynamic like?
At the time, a lot of my friends didn't, again, have a clue about it and didn't really get exposed to it because, as you know, with beat baseball, we travel a lot. There's not a whole lot of local games going on and a lot of things where people can attend and watch you play. Nowadays we have more opportunities to do scrimmages and things of that nature, but at that point in time we didn't have a lot of local tournaments. And I think one of the first Pasadena, Texas tournaments we had was in 95 or 96 that I was actually a part of, and that was about 10 miles from my home, and that's when everybody that I knew got a taste of what it was about. And at that time, I wasn't, in the game a lot. I think I had one at bat in 1995 at the World Series. And, I wasn't really, getting a lot of playing time. But they got exposed to the sport, and a lot of people I was around fell in love with it. My family was a huge part of our team for a very long time, and they got hooked just like I did.
I've heard. Yeah, I mean, it's I've heard about the influence and the impact that your dad in particular had on the Heat program. Do you want to speak a little bit to that, like how because that happens in sighted people's lives too, where like a father can coach their child, and I just think my guess is that this might be a little different, whereas we're, as you said, we're playing this isn't Little League, right? Like this is actually we play at a high level. How was it being coached by your dad?
Oh, that's an experience, and that people who weren't around during the Charles Boudreau era don't really understand what we dealt with. My dad, he was a coach for 40 years in middle school. And for those of you who are basketball fans, he is compared to the Bobby Knight of junior high basketball. So wow. He fiery individual, very loud. He really, he was going to let you know what he thought, whether you were a player, an umpire, opposing team, whoever was out there. You knew what Charles Boudreau thought, and I never expected him to coach beat baseball. But like I said, after we were getting kicked by the Lone Star Roadrunners in 1995, he decided to jump on board. And I don't think beat baseball was ready for Charles Boudreau at the time, because there wasn't a whole lot of coaches or managers who coached in his style, I guess I should say. And our guys on the team at the time weren't used to having a coach come in and, he didn't give the guys any slack. It was from day one, it was true coaching as you would get on a high school or college level. It was, no matter what, you're going to get that ball. No matter what, you're going to do it the right way, or you were going to hear about it. And it was very intense, and it was more intense for me as his son, because where the other guys would get a little bit of leeway if they missed a ball, I never did. It was, no matter if it went through 3 or 4 guys prior to getting to me, if it got through me, I was going to hear about it. And truthfully, I owe him for the player I am today, because he really put a lot of heart, a lot of effort into making me the player I am today, and really truly cared about myself and our team. And I honestly can say I don't think we would have won the World Series in 2002 if it wasn't for him. He took a team that was not very good in 94, 95 to World Series champions in 2002.
Wow. I mean, so that sounds like a perfect time to talk about that. I mean, I have tasted playing on Saturday twice, but to seal the deal and win a championship, that still eludes me and us in this incarnation of the Bayou City Heat. What was that like? I mean, you must have been still a teenager, right?
I was 18 years old. It was my senior year in high school, and one of my best friends at the time, I had brought along to catch for us, and that was his first year catching. And him and Fonzie, I'm telling you, I haven't seen an offensive output like that since 2002. People who weren't around, I know individuals like Kevin Simpson mentioned it many times when he saw it. He actually called us winning the World Series. When we played in Oklahoma City in 2002 at the regional tournament, he truly believed we were going to win that World Series. And we were scoring a lot of runs that year. I believe our final score against Austin, the last time we played them there at the series in Chicago, was 42-29. Wow. We had over 40 runs during that game, and we were just connecting. And we beat some great teams that year. We beat Austin twice, I believe. We beat the West Coast Dogs, the Taiwan Home Run. But the best team that we faced that year was who we beat in the finals, and we had to beat them twice, and that was the Oklahoma City Bombers. who, in my opinion, were an all-star team from around the country. You know, you had the elite players. I don't know how many of those guys were actually from Oklahoma, aside from Tim Hibner and a couple of others, but they were an all-star team, and they were very, very good. And for us to beat those guys 2 consecutive games was something I wasn't expecting, and I was extremely nervous as an 18-year-old kid out there during those games.
What's the biggest difference gameplay-wise between, from 2002 to, say, 2018? What's the biggest difference? If there's more than one, by all means.
Are you talking about myself, Tim, personally?
I'm talking about the game. The game.
Just the game itself?
Yeah.
The defense. The defense has changed significantly. Like I said, we were putting up 40-something runs, but you also had Austin putting up huge numbers, West Coast putting up huge numbers. You know, back in the 90s, I was privy to watching many games between Austin and Lone Star that were in the 40s and even 50s at times. So the defense has dramatically improved. A lot of that had to do with extending the bases from 90 feet to 100. When I started, the bases were 90 feet away from home plate.
Wow.
And now they're at 100 feet. So that changed it a little bit. But defense has just improved significantly. Getting the sport out there, I think we're doing a great job of doing outreach and getting the sport to the masses. So a lot more teams are forming in different areas. The international presence we have did not exist back then outside of Taiwan. So that's a huge difference. And then, things like wool and having females spotlighted and such a huge part of our sport. We had some great female athletes back in the day, and I don't think they got the credit they deserve. But the game has changed quite a bit since that time.
No kidding, man. That's profound. I mean, 90 feet to 100 feet, of course, would make I got a hamster the other day, and it's going nuts. Don't judge me, world. So 90 to 100 is a big change, but I think, like you said, I mean, just the technique and the exposure and a number of factors go into the defense probably being. I mean, it's changed in my time in the league, and I've only been in the league for 6 years or so, and defense is always improving. So we do still have our high-scoring games, but I do want to talk about you actually sparked a question for me now, which is what has changed the most significantly from your game, your skill set from, say 2002 to now?
Well, I've always been focused on defense. I mean, I've been an okay hitter. I mean, I have a lot of power. I don't have blazing speed, never have, never will. I hit in the 400s, 500 area, usually at a World Series, which is, not all-star caliber. It's, an average to an above-average hitter. But I've always focused on defense. In my opinion, defense requires an incredible amount of skill, and I spent the majority of my career as a deep player. So the first 13 years I believe I played, I was in deep left field, which anybody who's played in the back understands that requires a whole different skill set than playing up front. So you're going from one side of the field to the other and having to track down balls that are just shots that are hit extremely hard, and having to track those balls, and you are the last line of defense before that ball is completely gone. So, I said in the previous part one of this podcast that my best defensive year was not 2018 when I was awarded the MVP trophy. My best defensive year was 2002 when I was in the back shutting down left field. That year I got 23 putouts in deep left, which nowadays a deep player getting 23 opportunities is rare, let alone 23 putouts. And that was something I prided myself. But my game has changed in the sense that I've gotten the opportunity to play in all areas of the field. So I moved from deep left to rover there in the middle of the field, and I played that for the majority of my time after I moved from the back. And then this year was my first opportunity to have a full World Series up front. And I've had experience coming in and filling in up front at the shortstop position in particular games. 2014 against Boston was one of my first forays into that. And then 2016 against San Antonio and Colorado, I played up front as well and had good games in all three of those, but I've never had the opportunity to play up front for an entire tournament until this year. So just having different experiences and opportunities defensively to, do what I love, and that's play defense, track the ball and pick it up. That's where my skills are. Like I said, I'm not the fastest guy, but I can go straight to the ball and usually pick it up cleanly.
Wow. I mean, it's good to look at your skill set, your career, and be able to identify some things where you've improved. And also, there's some humility there because you're saying you don't have the most blazing speed. Hey, neither do I. But hey, this is something you've definitely worked hard at, especially the defensive side, and you killed it this season, man. And I want to speak about this season. And you were taking a year away from Bayou City. We all have big personalities, man. I have never seen a group like blind athletes have more big personality than anyone else that I know. And things happen. So you came back. You made the return back to the team. And at what point did you think this was a special situation where we could go as far as we ultimately did in the
well, and I'm glad you brought that up, Tim. I do want to speak on that 1 year apart.
Sure.
I'm not going to go into extreme detail about it or get into the negativity of the whole situation, but there was some disagreement with myself and the Bayou City Heat in 2016, and I felt at the time it was necessary for me to step away after 23 years with the team. There needed to be a break. I didn't feel I was appreciated. Others felt, certain things, and I am blessed that we have individuals who, in this organization, who do respect me and respect my game enough to give me an opportunity. And Kevin Simpson, when he formed the San Antonio Jets, contacted me pretty quickly after he started that team, and I gave it a thought, the previous year, and I decided to come back to Bayou City. But after things went south a little bit, I called Kevin, and he was gracious enough to open the door for me to join the San Antonio Jets. And truthfully, that was one of the highlights of my career, was to step outside the norm, step outside of what my home was with the Bayou City Heat and get to experience a whole new situation with a new up-and-coming team with the San Antonio Jets, who right now I believe are a true powerhouse in our sport. And they welcomed me with open arms. I mean, they truly did. From the coaches, Marty and Rod, down to the players, it's an amazing group of individuals, and I felt they did everything they could to make me feel welcome. And that being said, Tim, my year away from the Bayou City Heat, what was on my mind was to not only improve as a player, but also prove that my value to the team was there. I wanted to prove that I was a big part of our success in Bayou City. It's a team sport, but I just wanted to feel appreciated. So I can't sit here and say that first time we played my former team wasn't something special to me, because it was. And I poured everything into that year with San Antonio. I worked out like a madman. I did what Kevin told me to do. I wanted to meet all expectations and not disappoint that team and do my best. And it was a really remarkable year for me and the Jets, and I really, truly appreciated it. That being said, hearing the Bayou City Heat cheer on an opposing field just gave me chills. I remember standing in the field against the Indy Thunder, a game that was so intense at the World Series in 2017, and literally getting chills hearing the Bayou City Heat cheer on an opposing field. It didn't feel right. And I was saddened, but I pushed on, and with no thought of actually coming back home. To be honest with you, Tim, I did not know if that was going to occur. So my heart was with San Antonio. I treated it as my new home, and after the season ended, many members of the Bayou City Heat approached me, apologized, made amends, and I don't hold grudges. So I made the decision to come home, and I knew that coming back to Houston would take the seventh place finish that Bayou City had the previous year, and I knew we would be better. And I knew that the team had improved since I had left, and I know the addition of myself and other individuals who joined us would be something special. And when we did projections online and everybody gave their thought about where teams would finish, I put Bayou City at third. And people thought I was crazy doing that. But I wasn't shocked when we made the championship game. I knew we would be right there in the mix with everybody else.
So you had a good feeling about the program even before you officially came back home. Is that fair to say?
I did. We had some tremendous athletes, and losing Tanner Gears did hurt. I'm not going to say that. Tanner's a huge part of Houston's success over the years, and him leaving for a year did affect us. I truly believe that. But I knew the kind of skill set we brought to the table, and I knew that defense was going to be our key to success, and it was. The reason we got to Saturday this year was defense. We put enough offense out there, and Fonzie does an amazing job. He always has us in the game, but the reason we were there on Saturday was because we stepped up defensively.
For sure. I mean, it was dramatically improved from my first season, which you were with the Jets in 2017, and that was our Achilles heel. It's like we could score and keep up with anybody, but we definitely let some of the easier balls eat us up. And once we cleared our minds and our heads and got to realizing that we have to stop the rubbish, the garbage, because if they hit it deep, 150 feet or something, there's really nothing we can do about that. It's the easy stuff, the junk that we have to clean up on. I thought we did a good job at that and still have room to improve on.
And I do want to say a big key, and one of the large proponents of us being successful in Eau Claire, Wisconsin this year at the World Series was a late addition, and I mean extremely late addition to our roster. I believe we found out 2 weeks prior to the World Series he was coming, and that is Rob Wygant. Attending the World Series. He was dealing with injury, wasn't sure he could make it, but when he decided that he was going to be able to attend is when that green light went off in my head that it's time to go. We have a chance at this, and for those who've been around the sport know Rob's potential and what he brings to the table, but Rob Wygant in my 25 years is the greatest deep player that's ever laced up cleats in the National Beat Baseball Association. The guy is a monster in the back. He tracks the ball like no other. And again, a guy who is quick but not blazing speed. And Rob hones in on that ball and finds it. And my job, as you alluded to, was to pick up the garbage up front. I was laser focused on I was not going to let hits that were not shots get by. And, that was my focus. And then I knew things that got past me would be slowed down either by Rob Wigand or Daryl Miner, who's been in the league a very long time as well. So we had two veterans in the back. And honestly, I consider myself a veteran, even though I'm still a younger guy. 25 years is a very long time. So in our left field, we had myself, who's been around 25 years, Daryl Miner, who's been around 30, and Rob, who, from what I know, has been around over 30 years as well. So we had a very seasoned left field at this year's World Series.
We sure did. That's the bottom line. We definitely did, and it's going to be interesting to have some additions. I don't know what is known and what isn't. Do you know what I'm referring to? Like, screw it.
Yes, and some of it's public knowledge. Tanner Gears is an official member of the Bayou City Heat again, which I think is an extremely positive thing for us. The guy is so dedicated to getting better. Tanner and yourself, Tim, have a lot in common. I always see you guys working out in the off season in terms of trying to improve your skills and just working out like madmen, always trying to improve on defense and hitting and everything else. And, I think he's going to be a big help for us this next year.
Yeah, man. So from your year when you stepped away and played with the Jets, which was obviously a formative time for you and a beneficial time for you, which, that's undeniable. But while you were gone, so from the time you left from 2016 to the time you rejoined in 2018, is there anyone that sticks out to you who had made an improvement to their game? And I mean, obviously everyone improved, but anyone that sticks out, if that makes sense.
From Bayou City Heat?
Yeah.
I think everybody added a little bit to their game. Ja'Cory had just started coming around in 2016 defensively. It was that was an amazing situation because Ja'Cory will probably admit to this. He couldn't field the ball to save his life for many, many years. He had blazing speed, great offensive player, but it just did not click defensively. And in 2016, all of a sudden, Ja'Cory Wiley flew out of the box and started picking up balls left and right. So he had just started doing that in 2016, so we saw vast improvement with him. Yourself, Tim, defensively, I think you had one putout going into 2017. Is that correct?
No, I had zero.
Zero putouts going into 2017. So, from you going from zero putouts to I think you had one or a couple in 2017, and then this year, especially at the regional tournament you attended, you started picking up some balls, and just your defensive skills started improving dramatically. And I think the work that you put in the off season really helped that. And another guy who I don't know if I want to say he improved because he always had it is Joseph Fleeks. Joseph has always had the skill. It's not a surprise to me that he performed so well at this year's World Series because it's always been there. Joseph has just come up with some fluke injuries and been hurt for several years and hasn't been able to show all of his potential. But he had an amazing World Series, and our younger players, Juan and Hunter, and those guys put in a lot of work in the off season. I know we took a little educational trip to Lubbock, myself and a few others, to teach some individuals about beat baseball, and I took Juan Munoz with us during that trip, and I think that was extremely beneficial to him because he had the opportunity to bat every game and field every game, and I think confidence-wise, that trip really benefited him. So just seeing those guys grow up and seeing some of the guys who had been around a while really get the opportunity to show off is what I noticed as I came back.
So, oh man, to see Juan score his first run this season, man. I think we were in College Station, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we were.
Unbelievable feeling, man. It's just like I remember mine, right? I'll never forget it. It's still my like crowning achievement in this league. And I could feel the same energy and the same like weight being lifted off of him, and he was confident. He was, for me, it was like emotional. For him, it was like I want more. You know what I mean? So like, hell of a kid and young man, and gonna be a really good player all around. Would you want to do a little word association with me?
Sure.
So I'm gonna say a few things. You don't have to give me one word. You can just give me a blurb or whatever feels right. But we'll start with Fonzie.
Are you gonna show me those little pictures they do in a therapist's office with the little black blobs and ask me to identify those, Tim, or are we just going with words here?
Mentally.
Okay. All right. Fonzie. God. Energy. Fonzie. Anybody who watches Fonzie out on that mound is going to get dizzy because he is bouncing around like a, he bouncing around like a bobblehead out there. I mean, I think we need a Fonzie Medrano bobblehead because that boy does not stand still out on that mound, and he is always fired up. I don't care if it's 10 games into a World Series and he's been out there in the blazing sun the entire time. He has more energy than any human being I've ever seen, and he doesn't let up. And he's just, his passion is apparent. He has the fire in him from game one all the way to the very end, and he's had that his entire career. And we were talking about my first year. I just found a picture recently of my first at bat with I believe he was 19 or 20 at the time. Fonzie Medrano pitching me in my first at bat at the 1995 World Series. So he's been around a very long time, and he's just energy. He has positive energy and always fired up.
I love it. All right, moving on. I love you, Fonzie, but moving on. How about Janet Reed?
Janet Leonard?
Leonard, sorry. Jesus. You
combined Janet Leonard and Rosie Reed from Tyler, Texas.
I did. It's been a long day.
Two amazing women. Janet Leonard, focused. Janet has more statistics and background on where the players hit and what they're going to do and what they ate for breakfast. And, that woman, I don't know what she has in her little notebook. Sometimes I feel like she writes everything down because when a player comes to bat, and for those of you who aren't aware of what Janet Leonard does for us as a team, she is our spotter in the field. So defensively, she will guide us in terms of calling out a number where the ball is going to be hit and, give us an opportunity to field it. So Janet keeps amazing stats and is so laser focused on the opposing team that, like I said, we know more information than we probably should about every single player that's coming up to bat. So it's a huge benefit for us when we're out in the field playing defense.
And I just want to be clear, Janet, I know exactly who you are. It's just been a long day. So she is very dedicated. She loves doing what we do, and you said it perfectly. I've got at least two more, and I want to start with the word volunteers.
We wouldn't have Beat Baseball without volunteers. It's the backbone of our organization. We from the board of directors to our umpires, our scorekeepers, the individuals who are local who help us out with our World Series, to our spotters on our team, our catchers, pitchers, coaches. Our sided volunteers are next to none, and without those individuals, we wouldn't even be able to play the sport we love. So to show appreciation to our volunteers who are the backbone of the National Beat Baseball Association and the Bayou City Heat. We need to remember to do that on a regular basis.
Yep. We couldn't have said this on whether it was the Renegade Report or in earlier episodes of the Heat Index. We could not do it without them, plain and simple.
It would be impossible.
You got it, yeah. Now I have two more because I remembered one that I did want to get your words on. And that's Darryl Minor.
Oh, man. The first few words that popped into my head I can't say on the air. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
Darryl is always, I've always been close to him, since day one. Someone I looked up to. I'm gonna say the one word. If I had to use one word, I would say legend. I mean, Darryl in the sport of beat baseball is a legend. He, in my opinion, and we have several players who are approaching possibly getting to that status, but in my opinion, Darryl Minor is the greatest offensive beat baseball player that has ever played the game.
Wow.
He's a true powerhouse. For years, he was the hardest hitter in the league, and he was the fastest player of the league. And, I'm sure people have their own opinions, but he's one of the only individuals I've seen hit multiple home runs in a World Series. If anybody's ever been on the opposite end of a Darryl Minor shot, that is somewhere you don't want to be because that ball goes so high up in the air and so far that, you blink and it's gone. And the guy has just been consistent, MVP trophy after MVP trophy, all-tournament team after all-tournament team, and he's a class act. Even at I shouldn't give away his age, but what is Darryl now, 50? No, I think Darryl's 45 years old. Even at 45, he is still one of the best in our league. He's still playing like he's in his 30s. So
he's still
from day one, it was somebody that impressed me, and he's legendary in the NBBA.
Unbelievable. Yeah, dude, he's just such a blast. I mean, he's pretty. I don't want to say carefree. I think that's not what I mean. But he's so laid back. You know what I mean? He's just he's a fun teammate to have. And, it's just to hear you say legend.
Darryl was laid back until those big games. That's
sure.
the thing with Darryl, and anybody who knows Darryl knows that his speed changes a little bit when those big pressure games come. Darryl's intensity, his effort kicks up a notch when those big games come. Some of those earlier games, Darryl, I'm not going to say it's a fast jog, but he's not going the way Darryl Minor is capable of going. But when it matters, when it's on the line, Darryl Minor kicks it up a notch, and he always shows up.
Big game Darryl. I'm going to call him that from now on.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
All right. So I'm going to combine two into one, and then I want to take a look ahead before we call it a night. So,
is that going to be Janet Reed?
Not this time.
Okay. All
God, I feel so bad. It happens. No, so we can't go without these two gentlemen, and take as much time and be or as little time, or whatever you do, what you feel is right. But I want to talk about. I want to get your thoughts on Michael Garrett and Coach Jerlaine Carter, JC.
All right. Well, I've known Michael even before Beat Baseball. Michael has been a presence in the blindness community here in Houston and throughout the state of Texas and nationally for a very long time. With the American Council for the Blind and many other things that he does. He's always been an inspiration to a lot of people. But, having him, like I said, he was a very career-oriented family man, and being able to see that as a 9-year-old kid and growing up and being around it was something that really benefited me tremendously. And as I had aspirations into helping the board of directors, which weren't initially in my head until him and Doc Bradley decided to come to me and put those thoughts in my head. But they were the real catalyst for me getting going with helping our organization on the board. So he's someone I definitely have looked up to, and he really has helped me along the way in terms of inspiration. Jerlaine, JC, Coach Carter, whatever anybody wants to call him. That's a tough one because JC, I've known JC since he was a little boy. He came out to volunteer for us when I believe he was 12.
Wow.
So I've known him since he was little, and we used to pick on him all the time. So I've actually seen him grow up. And I'll give a little insight because you know me, Tim. I don't shy away from things, and I do want to bring this up. Discussions that he and I had, and at the end of 2016, were one of the main reasons I left to go to San Antonio for the 2017 season, and we weren't seeing eye to eye, and I just don't think we appreciated each other at the time. I think there was some respect there, but I think that we really just didn't appreciate each other and what we brought to the table at the time. And when I took a step away and I came back for the 2018 season, things just changed. And the respect I feel from him now, and I hope it's mutual, is completely different from what I felt before. Not that it wasn't there, but it's a different appreciation. You know, JC comes to me and asks me questions and values my opinion, and really it's a team effort, you know, and I'm glad we're finally on that same page, and he truly, for what he's given to our team from being a child or a youth to a grown man now who is leading the Bayou City Heat, it's amazing to see. To see him grow up and take that leadership role and do what he has done, it has been very impressive. And I've seen him grow up. You know, I have truly seen him grow up. And even from the time I was gone to this year, he has grown up significantly in terms of his coaching, his leadership, what he is willing to put up with in terms of, the things that shouldn't be going on. It has changed dramatically. And I'm very proud and impressed with the man and coach he's become. So just two individuals that I truly feel that should be respected and are true leaders on our team. We couldn't have gotten there without either one of them. So I appreciate the dedication. I'm glad that Michael Garrett has been around as long as he has. You know, he was one of the founding fathers of the Houston Bombers and the Beat Baseball in Houston. And for us to be able to deliver that World Series championship when Michael Garrett was still on the field in 2002 was something amazing. I mean, I will never forget that. For him, I'm sure it was something special. From starting Beat Baseball in the 1970s all the way to 2002, never tasted that championship, and then finally getting it is something incredible, and I'm sure he values that, and I enjoyed watching it.
But you know when I felt old for the first time ever was when I realized that I'm slightly older than my Beat Baseball coach.
So, I'm starting to feel old when it takes me about a month to recover from the Beat Baseball World Series, Tim. I mean, you know, as a kid, I was bouncing back the next week, and now I feel like I can't get out of bed for weeks. I feel like I've been hit by a train. So, yeah, but I know what you mean with JC. It's hard to believe he's as young as he is. Sometimes you forget it because he seems very wise.
Right. I look up to him. Like he's been like my own personal guidance counselor in the time I've been with the team, and man, it means a lot to me. So I want to ask you. I want to take a look forward, and I want to ask you about a personal. I want to ask you a personal question. Do you have any individual goals that you'd like to share with us, or is it strictly about the team right now? And if you have individual goals, I mean, it's an individual sport. So if you do have them, that's great. I'd love to hear about them. So I'll let you take it from there.
You know, I've never been the type to chase individual awards or anything of that nature. I did want to make it a point this year when I was given the opportunity to play up front to prove to any doubters that I could play defense. Those who have been around and seen me play for year after year after year, they understand I do have the skill set to play defense very well. But it was my goal this year to prove that if I was given that chance to have that many opportunities at the ball, I would end up there on the all-tournament team. Now, did I think I would become MVP? Absolutely not. In fact, when I called out, or we called out, and I was placing the medals on the all-tournament around the all-tournament team players' necks, and it was down to the last one, the MVP, I thought I had missed the team. So that's how oblivious I was. And it meant something to me, but I'm telling you, us being able to finish second and becoming that, getting that close to a championship was what mattered to me. I would take 2 putouts, over an MVP trophy if we won the championship. So it's always been a team sport. That was my first individual award in terms of on-field play at a World Series this year after 24 years. So,
are you kidding me?
It's never. That was my first all-tournament team or any individual award for on-field play ever.
Dude, I had no idea.
At a World Series.
Wow.
Yeah,
well,
so
congrats.
that was my first opportunity to play up front defensively, and a testament to some of my mentors, my father and John Parker, who was our defensive coach this year. They both truly believed that if I played up front that I would end up on that all-tournament team. There was no doubt in either one of their minds, and my dad has been saying it for 15 years. And it was a great accomplishment, but it's special to me, but in a sense, there's nothing that can replace that team victory. Nothing will replace 2002 until we win it again.
Sure.
So, my individual goals are to get better, to get healthier. Trying to avoid injury at the World Series has always been a task for me. I always seem to get injured, and granted, I play through every single thing I do. You pulled muscles, torn muscles, whatever the case may be, I play through it. You're going to have to drag me off the field, as many people know. I mean, I'm going to have to be carried out on a gurney to stay away. But that's my thing, just getting better, staying healthy, helping the team get to the point where we can win another championship. And outside of that, Tim, I think my individual goals just rest on the organization itself. I mean, I know the last part one that we did had to do with my job as president of the NBBA, but that's where a lot of my goals lie, is just improving the sport of beat baseball, taking us to the next level, getting us in the Paralympics, getting us those major corporate sponsorships, doing things that will keep beat baseball around for 50 years. That is my goal, getting youth involved, getting people involved, getting the sport that international exposure that it deserves. So those are where my goals lie, because I've had the opportunity to play what I feel is the greatest sport in the world for 25 years. And if my career was over tomorrow, I would be saddened, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And 25 years of doing something you love, you can't really replace that. So I want to give other people the opportunity to experience what I did. So my goals truly rest on what I'm doing for the organization.
Oh man, I can dig it. So you said you don't hold back, right? Like we're pretty truthful in this. I mean, I put on the announcer voice, sure, but you are as genuine as it gets here. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to be as honest and as upfront and as candid as you feel you can be. And it's simple. What do we need to do, and what can we do to get over the hump moving forward, 2019?
Yeah, well, we're doing it. There was a lot of when I took over as president, there was a lot of pushback, and many people who were involved with social media and Facebook truly felt the pushback was extremely harsh and coming from a lot of people, but it really wasn't. It was a small group that was raising an uproar because they were afraid of change in some of the things that I was trying to implement. And, doing things like I said in part one, creating an ethics policy, holding people accountable, making this seem like a professional organization, which it is, in my opinion. Having a meeting with USABA, including the United States Association of Blind Athletes, into what we're doing and partnering with them and things that they are doing. That is an organization that is, truly admirable in the adaptive sports community, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have been partnering with them 10 years ago. And to take that trip to Colorado Springs and meet with those individuals, I think they're going to play a significant part in our success in the future. And Kevin Broussard and Mark Lucas, who we met with USABA, are big fans of Beat Baseball and what we're trying to do. And I think just the individuals who are afraid of change and the individuals who are afraid of where we're going, they need to get on board, because we're going there one way or another. We're moving forward. We're taking this sport seriously. We have one of our first major corporate sponsors since I've started in this sport, in Jersey Mike's, who was generous enough to give us $50,000. And I don't think that's the end of Jersey Mike's support, because it wasn't the beginning. They have been helping us with things for years and years and years. And we want to give Jersey Mike's and other sponsors who come along something to be proud of, something that they can put their name on and look back and say, you know what, the National Beat Baseball Association is something that I am proud to be a sponsor of and a supporter of. And that's what's going to take us to the next level, Tim, taking this seriously, being professionals, having fun, enjoying the week of the World Series, but we're here to play ball. We're here to show the world that regardless of disability, we can do some incredible things, and the sport of Beat Baseball is the most amazing athletic achievement, the most amazing sport, adaptive or not, on the face of the earth. And I truly believe that, and that's what we need to do. Everybody needs to get on board. Whether you agree with my policies or what I've tried to do, that doesn't matter. If you want to make change, if you want to be a part of this, then join up, give ideas, be positive about it. If you don't like something, come to me with it. Come to me, give me suggestions on how it can be better, and I will listen. I've always listened, but don't just complain. Don't just complain and stir up controversy. Be a part of change. Be a part of taking this sport to the next level instead of trying to hold it back, because it's not going to be held back by anyone.
Wow, well said. So that was kind of a macro point of view. I want to take a micro point of view now and focus on, and the same parameters. Don't hold back. What can Bayou City Heat, what can the Bayou City Heat do, or what do they need to do? What do we need to do to make sure we get over the hump? And that's on the field.
It's something to where we need to focus on getting rid of the mental mistakes. You talked earlier about picking up the garbage defensively. Those hits that should not be runs, picking up the short balls that go 50, 60, 70 feet. That was a huge part of our success this year. Missing bases. Running to a base that you're going to score a run every time and just running right past the base and getting put out. We had a lot of missed bases this year, a lot. And those are killers. When you have run after run after run that you're not collecting because you're missing the base, that is something that's unacceptable. Mental mistakes, staying focused, and that's a huge part of when we were talking about what changed in my game. That's a huge part of what's changed in my game, is that I don't get rattled. I get nervous, but I don't get rattled. If I miss a ball, guess what? I'm right back at it the next time. And some of our guys are still young. Some of our guys are still new to the sport. Some of our guys have been around 4 and 5 years but still get rattled. And we can't have it. We just can't. When you miss a ball, when you miss a base, you go right back to it, and you make sure that you hit the base the next time. You make sure you pick up the garbage hit the next time, and you do everything you possibly can to make up for your mistake. And mental strength, focus, that's the key. You get faster and stronger all day long, but if you're not going to be mentally focused and mentally strong enough to hold it together out there on the field, it's not going to do you a lick of good. So blazing speed's good. We have that. Hard hitters, we have that. We have the defense. It's the focus. It's a mental. I truly believe that. We get it together mentally, and that's where the veterans come in. You don't see a Rob Wigand getting rattled. You don't see a Daryl Minor getting rattled. It's our younger guys who need to be mentally tough, and no matter what comes up, they bounce right back. That's the key.
What an answer, man. I thought you were going to.
I do want to say this. I do want to say this, Tim, before I get completely obliterated by this guy. Another big change for the Bayou City Heat coming in this next year will be Jason Walters returning to Houston. Jason went with me to the San Antonio Jets and then played a year with the Bryan College Station Outlaws and is now coming home to Houston. Jason has grown as a man and also as a player on the field, and defensively and offensively. I think he's going to be a huge part of our success this next year and in the future.
I know I'm impressed with him. You told me this year in Wisconsin, like how old he was. I was blown away because he's just got such a poise about him and a maturity. So if he can if he can impress me on the field even half as much as he impresses me off of it, dude, we got something special there.
He is such a mentally strong young man. You know, Jason's in his early 20s, and he started when he was 16 years old back in 2011, I believe. And he reminded me a lot of me, except a heck of a lot more mature at that age. Jason's been through a lot in life. You know, Jason has been through the mill in life and been through some extremely tough times. And for that guy to hold it together like he has and be the man that he is today and the player on the field is something extremely special. And he's a soon-to-be father as well, which congratulations to him and his wife. Gonna add another baby to the mix. So, but he is somebody who I've always been impressed with, and he's a guy that doesn't get rattled. You know, at his age, he mentally he's very, very focused, and that's the way I want our entire team to be. Is just focused on the goal at hand. If you make a mistake, bounce back and run with it.
You bet, man. I know for one, I'm very excited. Very grateful to be a part of the team. And actually, with that being said, I want to tell you something, and the rest of the people that deserve to hear it. And that's simple, man. Just thank you. You know what I mean? Like I almost didn't have this. You know, I've gone through my own personal demons and struggles, and I'm coming out on the other side of it, a better, stronger, with a higher character, just an all-around better young man. And it's simply because of the influences in my life that I'm actually paying attention to now, and a big part of that is Bayou City. It's no coincidence that I've been I've been sober since right around the time I joined the team. So from 2,000 miles away or whatever it is, you guys can impact me, and it's just as much as an impact when I spend a week with you guys. You know, my point is that you have all done so much for me, especially this past World Series. So many people in our program, so many people out of our program, whether it was you or John Parker or Coach John Stark from the BCS Outlaws. Just so many, there's countless amount of people that check in on me, make sure my head's right, and if it isn't, they'll tell me it's not, even when I don't know. So I just wanted to thank you, because you know what you did and you know what you do. But I also wanted to mention a few others, and when I get interviewed,
beat ball. And I've said this a million times, Tim. Beat baseball is not just a sport. It saves lives. It changes lives. It builds confidence. It's something special. It is something special that you don't get in in a recreational softball league or something of that nature. It is truly a life changer. And from your story to the story of Fonzie Madrano to Daryl Miner to Ethan with Colorado and many, many, many others, Beat Baseball saves lives and changes lives, and it's something special. And we're proud of you and proud of everybody who's such a huge part of it.
Yeah, man. It's a community. It's just I couldn't have wrapped that up better than you did, and it just means so much to me. You know what I mean? And I'll elaborate more at another time. But thank you. That's all. And just from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Is there anything you wanna say that I may have forgotten, or is there a way you wanna wrap this up? Because I just want to give you the floor because you deserve it. You've been so patient with me, and I think I told you this would be a half hour, and we're over an hour. So do you want to take a minute and say anything that I forgot?
Yeah, I just want to encourage everybody to get involved. You know, this is something that I can't do alone. Nobody can do alone. I want people to get involved in our sport, whether they're volunteers or people joining the board of directors or committees or whatever the case may be. Be a big proponent of us growing and becoming better. This year on our committees that are serving the board of directors, I think we have 38 or 39 individuals who are not on the board who are serving on our committees, which is more than have ever been a part of making this league grow and a better place to be. And I'm so proud and thankful for everybody's help. And I want to encourage people to get involved with the sport of beat baseball. If you're listening to this and you're not already involved, get involved. You know, find a local team to help out with. Be a big support in any way you possibly can, because it's something special. And if you've never seen the sport, if you've never seen a game, go out and watch it. It's something you'll never forget.
That's beautifully said. So Blake, we will do this again. I hope, because I want to do this for a long time. To talk and get our sport out there. So oh yeah. By the way, you were my first ever. Even though I think I probably said it in part one, you were my first ever repeat guest, and I think we've got like 4 full-length episodes with you if we include this one. So thank you for taking the time. And I mean, it's been an honor.
Well, in the words of the people from your homeland, Tim, that is wicked awesome. And I am very thankful that you've had me on all 4 times. And I really appreciate everybody who listens. And it's an amazing job that you do with every single podcast. So if they haven't checked out all the rest of them, they need to.
Yeah, man. Hey, and I got through an entire podcast without mentioning October baseball. I'll just leave it at that. So this has been Blake Boudreau. This has been the C Index. You just got that. I am Timothy Seifert. Blake, thanks again, man, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tim. Go Astros.